The wind howled across the frozen valley like a living ghost. The snow fell endlessly, coating the earth in white silence. Somewhere between the ridges of those forgotten mountains, a man walked alone, tall, rugged, wrapped in a wolfskin coat, his eyes reflecting the dying light of the sun. His name was Eli Crane, a man of the wilderness, a man the townsfolk once called the mountain ghost. They said he had no soul left, that the mountains had eaten it long ago. But that evening, the mountains gave him something back. Eli had been hunting near the ridge when he heard it, a faint cry carried by the wind. At first he thought it was a fox or a wounded animal. But then came another sound, soft, human, trembling through the snow like the last breath of hope. He stopped, his hand tightening on the rifle. The forest around him was drowning in silence. And then he saw her, half buried in snow, her dress torn, her lips blue with cold. A young woman lay on the slope, her eyes flickering open at the sight of him. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking like the wind itself. "Don't leave me." Eli dropped his rifle and ran toward her. He lifted her gently, her body trembling in his arms. Her skin was ice, her breathing shallow. Blood stained the snow near her ribs and a deep gash, maybe from a fall or a bullet. He didn't ask. He just acted. He carried her through the blizzard step by step, until he reached his lonely cabin, hidden between the pine trees. The wind slammed against the walls as he laid her by the fire, covering her with his own coat. The flames flickered, painting their faces in gold and shadow. Hours passed before she spoke again. Her eyes opened, blue as the frozen sky, and she tried to sit up. Pain shot through her body and she gasped, pressing a hand against her ribs. "Don't move," Eli said quietly, kneeling beside her. His voice was deep, steady, the kind of voice that could make even the wind listen. She looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. "My ribs," she whispered, barely breathing. "My ribs are already broken." Eli's jaw clenched. He poured some whiskey into a cloth and pressed it gently on her wound. She flinched but didn't cry out. "You're lucky to be alive," he murmured. "Whatever broke you didn't finish the job." A faint smile touched her lips in a mix of pain and irony. "You sound disappointed." He didn't answer. He just wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "You got a name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Clara," she said softly. "Clara Wren." Eli nodded once. "Rest now, Clara Wren. The storm's not done out there. You'll be safe here." But safety was a strange word in the mountains, because as night deepened, shadows began to move outside, men on horseback, their torches flickering between the trees. Eli saw them through the window. His past had returned, riding through the snow. Clara woke when she heard the horses. "They found me," she gasped. Fear returned to her eyes like lightning. Lightning. "If they find me here," Eli loaded his rifle. "They won't." He stepped outside into the storm, the snow biting at his face, his coat flapping like a banner of defiance. The leader of the riders shouted, "Crane, hand over the girl." Eli's voice was calm, almost gentle. "You boys got no claim here. Turn back before the mountain swallows you whole." The man laughed in a cruel sound. "She's worth $1,000 dead or alive. Don't make us take her from your cold hands." Eli's eyes narrowed. "Then I guess you'll be getting cold real soon." Gunfire broke the silence. The night exploded with flashes of light and the roar of thunder made by men. Eli moved like a storm himself, silent, precise, deadly. One by one, the riders fell. The snow drank their blood. When it was over, the valley was quiet again. Eli returned to the cabin, his coat torn, his breath heavy. Clara stared at him, at the man who had faced death to protect a stranger. "Why?" she whispered. "You could have handed me over." Eli sank beside the fire, staring into the flames. "Because I've seen too many die for nothing." "Not this time." She reached out a trembling hand and touched his arm. For the first time in years, he felt warmth that didn't come from fire. Days turned into nights and nights into days. The storm faded, but they didn't speak of leaving. Clara began to heal. Sometimes she'd watch Eli chop wood or fix the cabin roof, his movement steady and sure, like the earth itself. And sometimes he'd catch her watching, and almost smile. But the mountains keep secrets, and no secret stays buried forever. One evening, Clara told him the truth. "I was running," she said. "Those men, they killed my husband. He was a marshal. They wanted something he had, proof of their crimes. I took it and ran. I thought if I could reach the next town, Eli looked at her quietly. You didn't make it. She nodded. They shot my horse. I rolled down the ridge. Broke my ribs. Eli's eyes softened. You're safe now. But she shook her head. Not until they're all gone. There was silence for a long time. Then Eli stood and reached for his coat. Then we finish it, he said simply. Together they rode out at dawn, through mist and pine and memory. Clara's ribs were still healing, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. Side by side, they tracked the outlaws to the canyon, where the snow turned red again. The fight was brutal, but when it ended, justice stood where vengeance had fallen. As they rode back, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks. Clara looked at him, her voice a whisper carried by the wind. You kept me alive, Eli Crane. He didn't look at her, just stared at the horizon. No, he said softly. You kept yourself alive. I just gave you time. The cabin came into view again, their small world between the mountains. The fire waited for them, the silence no longer heavy but peaceful. That night, as the wind sang outside, Clara leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. Her ribs still hurt, but her heart didn't, and somewhere in that lonely wilderness, the mountain ghost finally found what he'd lost long ago, a reason to live. And if you felt the chill of the storm, if you heard the heartbeat of this mountain tale, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because out here, in the Wild West, and every whisper, every scar, every soul has a story waiting to be told. Subscribe for more Wild West stories, where silence speaks louder than bullets.